What's going on, buddy? My name is Eason, and welcome back to another video. And today, we're looking at political stability for AP Comparative Government and Politics, topics 1.10. Let's get started. So, when measuring political stability, we're particularly measuring if a state is maintaining sovereignty, government authority, population, and territory to keep it as a state. If you remember from before, these are all characteristics a modern state must have to be considered a state. We can use the Fragile States Index, Corruption Perception Index, and Freedom House ranking to measure this. More information on these in our Topic 1 video for Unit 1. Go check that out if you haven't. Different internal actors can interact with governments to bolster or undermine regime stability and rule of law. Remember, rule of law is the concept that nobody is above the law, and all citizens and people in a country are subject to the same law, protections, and equality. There are three actors that we need to know about for this course, though. The first is methods for combating political corruption in our countries. In China, the courts have been used by the president to convict people of crimes and target the opposition. Remember, China has a 99.3% conviction rate. They can also censor what information is spread through the country, particularly through the media, which they control. Similarly, in Russia, the courts have been used by Putin, the president there, to target the opposition. Protesters have been jailed numerous times, like after the 2012 election, which was deemed unfair. But the arrests and censorship ceased future protests and riots over the same issue. Like China, they can censor information and control the media. This avoids information from getting out. More similarities also occur in Iran, another authoritarian regime, with the media and internet controlled by the government, as criticism can be blocked and harsh consequences can be put in place for protesting. An example of this is during the 2019 and 2020 protests on oil price increases, the Iranian government shut down internet access for 6 whole days. In all three of our democratic regimes, Freedom of Information Acts have been passed to make the government more transparent, bolstering political stability and maintaining political legitimacy in the country. This makes people trust the government more, and change can be requested without harsh consequences. The second actor that we need to know about is a response to mass protest movements that oppose government policies or their equal enforcement. We just talked about this a lot with our authoritarian regimes arresting and trying to seize protesters to combat political corruption. In China, these protests are often censored, and you can't find information about them in China. An example of this is the Tiananmen Square protest and massacre in 1989, where protesters were requesting democratic reform and transformation, but the government violently stepped in and stopped them. Today, you can't find information about this protest in China, and the regime denies that this event even happened. Between 1993 to 2009, some report that 200 journalists have been killed in Russia, and during this time period, Russia has been seen as the highest homicide rate in the world, and third deadliest for journalists. Why has this occurred? Many speculate it's because of censorship in Russia. Many journalists are seen to have slipped or committed suicide as their cause of death. For example, in 2009, Olga Kotovskaya was an independent broadcaster in Russia until someday she fell from her 14-story window and was labeled as a suicide. Russia clearly doesn't like their journalists. In the United Kingdom, a democratic regime, protests against the government have had positive effects. For example, the 2019 UK student protests concentrated in London about high tuition fees because of cuts in education spending led to a freeze in the Welsh and Northern Ireland tuition fees. In Mexico and Nigeria, we do see peaceful protests occurring more than ever, but also some responses that are evidence of their previous authoritarian roots, which can be seen as violent. In Nigeria, End SARS was a social movement and mass protests against police brutality since 2017. The Nigerian government has responded with violent repression and killing of protesters. In Mexico, 2020 protests against feminist violence led to police opening fire on demonstrators, but some may say that these were justified in some fashion because they were violating Mexican laws, especially COVID-19 restrictions. What are some of the economic arguments to limiting the influence of violent and divisive actors? Some states do this to attract more private capital and foreign direct investment, which contributes to improving economic growth. Across the course countries, internal reform pressure from citizen protest groups and civil society can lead to the creation of new political institutions or policies to protect civil liberties, improve transparency, address election fairness and media bias, limit corruption, and ensure equality under the law, rule of law. Now, the third actor we need to know about is state responses to separatist group violence, drug trafficking, and discrimination based on gender or religious differences. And the three countries we're going to focus on is Iran, Mexico, and Nigeria. Nigeria has Boko Haram terrorist issues as the group wants to establish an Islamic state in Nigeria, and they have used kidnapping, assassinations, and other forms of violence to put pressure on the Nigerian government. This has led to violent responses from the government, like military interventions. In Iran, the state is based off Islamic law. No surprise, but not everyone in the state is Islamic. What? That's crazy. So those non-Islamic people have 290 reserved seats in the legislative branch for Iran. Sharia law also limits what women can do, but they have gained suffrage in Iran as long as they are 18. In Mexico and Iran, we can find drug problems. In Iran, drug use and selling can lead to execution or very long jail times. And this is a huge problem. It is being boosted with tons of heroin smuggling from Afghanistan. In Mexico, drug cartels control various territories and regions of the state. And like in Nigeria, the military has been used to intervene. And this process actually has been occurring for over 10 years, and they haven't stopped it yet. Nigeria also hasn't stopped their terrorist problems. So in both of these countries, political stability and legitimacy have been undermined and questioned. And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. We have just finished the Unit 1 topic videos. I have a review video where I'm going to go over multiple choice questions and an FRQ for the unit. So go check that out. It's very, very cool. Please like and subscribe and comment and stuff. It's free. It really helps me out. You can change your mind later on. I have a link in the description to some practice questions in FRQ. So yeah, go check those out. We're going to go over them in the next video. Alright, so I'll see you guys in the next video then. Adios.